One game we didn't really touch on, though, is my favorite of the week, and that is America's Game of the Week. Of course, I could say that because this is the NFL on Fox podcast, but I would say it anyway. This is the juiciest, most interesting matchup of week one. That's what makes it perfect to be America's Game of the Week for week one in our 30th anniversary season of the NFL on Fox. And it's not just because it's a rivalry, which it is. It's not just because it's two of the oldest and most storied franchises in the NFL, which they are. But for my money, this is a game between two division rivals that have a chance to launch completely new eras, completely new definitions of who they are as a franchise. It's the Green Bay Packers and the Chicago Bears going at it Sunday afternoon at Soldier Field on Fox. Did I mention it was on Fox? Because it is. That's where you can find it. But let's get into this. I mean, we know the overarching storyline, right? It's a wide open NFC North. Aaron Rodgers is nowhere to be found. He's not even playing on Sunday. He's a New York Jet. He's got the Bills to worry about. The NFC North feels as wide open as it has in a long, long time. The Chicago Bears trying to launch a breakout season with Justin Fields. Yes, it's his third year. I know it's not a new face, but the vibe around the Bears feels as different as it has in quite some time because of what the Bears have done to set Justin Fields up in his third year. You have the number one overall pick. You trade it away. You bring DJ Moore in from Carolina. You draft Darnell Wright. You build up the offensive line around him. The talent on this team, and it's certainly not the most loaded team in the NFL, but the talent on this team feels night and day from what the Bears were last year. I mean, they picked first in the draft, for God's sake. Now you couple that with it's hard to truly think about what this means for Green Bay and the opportunity that is in front of Jordan Love, who will be making his second start for the Green Bay Packers on Sunday afternoon. It was Brett Favre. It was Aaron Rodgers. I mean, with the exception of a few spot starts because of injuries, two men have played quarterback for the Green Bay Packers since the early 90s. It's 2023. It's just weird to think about. And now think about what's at stake for Green Bay, what they've gotten used to. You realize the Packers have won 8 straight in this series? Nick Rago, I know you know what that means. One of our head people here on the NFL and Fox podcast is a diehard Bears fan. He knows what that means. The Packers have won 17 of the last 20 games in this matchup, y'all. This is a big deal for the Bears, not just to see what Justin Fields is, but to get the Packers monkey off their back. Can you imagine on the flip side what it means if Jordan Fields rolls down to Soldier Field and wins? His second start against Justin Fields' 26th career start. Imagine the trash talk that's going to come from the Packers and their very large fan base if they go down and spoil the Bears party at Soldier Field. It's going to be so much fun. That's the central theme. And on top of that, it's one of the more quarterback-heavy matchups of week one for all the reasons I just listed. It's very fun to talk about what Justin Fields might be able to do this year with a better supporting cast. He was one of the best running quarterbacks ever last year. The passing game wasn't good enough. With DJ Moore, with a better offensive line, he has the potential to be that player. I think we talked about this in the NFC preview. I think MVP, I think All Pro is a little bit premature, but that's the important thing for the Bears is it starts with figuring out if Justin Fields is your franchise quarterback. It starts with figuring out if he's a guy that can help you win division titles because, sorry, Bears fans, that just hasn't been the case in Chicago. The thing that gets lost in the Justin Fields conversation, in my opinion, is we don't know how much longer he will be the Bears quarterback as of right now. That sounds crazy when you think about the potential for rushing yards and maybe he'll be a Pro Bowler this year, et cetera, et cetera. But the bottom line is that Bears general manager Ryan Poles, Bears head coach Matt Eberflus did not draft him. The last regime, which they ran out of town, drafted Justin Fields. If he's not remarkably better, if he does not look like a franchise guy, even forget the playoffs, forget all that stuff. If he doesn't look like a dude with this much talent around him, what's the point of continuing to build? What's the point of thinking about the 5th-year option? What's the point of earmarking money for an extension? He has to play well this year, because if he doesn't, then the Bears start looking for his replacement, and they've got the ammo to do it. The trade back from number 1 landed them Carolina's first-round pick. They'll have 2 next year. If they're not good, if Justin Fields isn't good, they'll be in position to use those picks to go up and get another quarterback. If that sounds offensive, I'm sorry, but that's the reality of the NFL. So it's not just the Bears' postseason hopes on the line here. It's Justin Fields' future, and it's whether or not the Bears are finally going to have that franchise guy. On the flip side, we finally get to see Love. I think we've all done this to death. We all get it. Jordan Love is finally getting to start after being drafted in 2020 and sitting all these years. They readjusted his contract. It's not as dire for Jordan Love from that standpoint. The Packers did extend him to kind of take some pressure off of himself. But again, when you're talking about 25, 30 straight years of exceptional quarterback play, it's a lot to live up to. And on top of that, the Packers, this is my hot take from the NFC preview, the Packers are ready to compete. Maybe not contend, but compete. Like, this is a good roster. The offensive line is good. David Bakhtiari, closer to the end of his career than the beginning, but an all-decade caliber tackle. Elton Jenkins is there. All 5 of their starting offensive linemen are still there. The defense has 7 first-round picks. We've beaten it into the ground. The running back duo, A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones, is one of the best in the NFL. Like, if Jordan Love is decent, the Packers are a competitive team, and if he's good, the sky's the limit. That's what's at stake. That's what makes it so juicy. I do want to get into 2 smaller storylines. Obviously, look, everybody's going to be looking at Fields and Love. You didn't need to tune into this to know that. But when you're watching this game, there's a couple of things I'm fascinated to see that are going to be playing out and drastically affecting both of these guys' performance. For the Bears, that's probably the biggest guy on the field, Darnell Wright, the gigantic man wearing number 58, the guy that the Bears wound up drafting with the pick that they got later. Well, actually 2 trades later. Bears fans, we'll see how the Jalen Carter thing plays out. We'll see if the second trade was really necessary. But Darnell Wright, incredibly exciting. I think he's going to have just as much to do with Fields' potential emergence as DJ Moore. Playing right tackle. This is a hell of a test, Darnell Wright. Maybe the Packers aren't the best pass rush in the NFL, but you're going to be going against Preston Smith. You're going to be going against Rashawn Gary. He'll probably be on a pitch count, but he will still be out there. You might even wind up going against interior guys like Kenny Clark and Devontae Wyatt, the highly touted guys that are manning the middle for the Packers. This is going to be tough. This is going to be like, that's what I love about this is it starts right from the get-go. Welcome to the NFL, my dude. Here are some guys with some Pro Bowls on their resume. I hope you were worth the pick. So watching Darnell Wright, again, I think it has just as much to do with Justin Fields as DJ Moore does, helping the running game. How does that look with better offensive linemen up front? From the Packers standpoint, feels kind of dicey on the offensive side of the ball. If you're following the injury reports this week, Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs are on that injury report with hamstring injuries both. Can't say I love the sound of that if you're a wide receiver. And check this out, y'all. I looked this up. If Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs can't play, both rookies last year, Christian Watson caught 41 balls for 7 touchdowns and 600 yards last year. Romeo Doubs caught 42 for 425. If you remove that production from the Packers offense, this is what you're talking about from your pass catchers, not counting running backs. 44 career catches for 450 yards. The vast majority of that coming from Josiah DeGuara, the number 3 tight end, and Samori Toure, another young receiver, caught 5 passes last year. That's what the Packers are replacing. That's why they're the youngest receiver and tight end core in the NFL. There's rookies all over the place. Jaden Reed, Malik Heath, and Dontavian Wicks are all rookies. So are Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft, the tight ends. If Christian Watson and or Romeo Doubs aren't available, who the hell is catching the football from Jordan Love? It's got to be somebody from a mathematical standpoint, but I can't say I love that as a matchup. Maybe the Bears don't have the best secondary in the league, but it is a strong point of their team. Whether you want to talk about Eddie Jackson, whether you want to talk about Jaquan Brisker, who looks like he could be a star in Chicago, the Bears have talent on the back end. And if guys can't get separation, it could be a long day for the Packers offense. So that's the two things I'm watching other than the obvious. I got to be honest. The other thing that makes this really fascinating is that I don't know which way it goes. Before I saw the injury reports, before I was worried about Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs, I said Packers win. I'm high on the Packers this year. I picked them to win the division. I can't say I feel confident about it right now, but it is week one. And look, I'm not bailing off the bandwagon before a game's even played. So I'm hoping desperately that one of these guys can get into the game. And I've got the Packers going down to Soldier Field to spoil this coming out party. A very tight game. Give me 24-23 Packers. I can't wait for this one. My favorite matchup of the weekend, plenty intriguing, and I'm very confident it's going to live up to the hype.